Hello and welcome back to ABC. Importation of cheap vehicles has killed off the Africa auto industry. Africa should not be the continent where the world's reject cars should come to die. Did you know that in the 1980s, Nigeria alone was producing locally about 150,000 vehicles and trucks and vans a year? Enough vehicles to be able to satisfy the local demand for cars. And now, what has happened? None of that production still holds or still continues. Here in Ghana, immediately after our independence in the 1960s, cars and trucks were manufactured locally here in Ghana. And now, our auto industry is nothing to write home about. What is the cause of that? What has killed our auto industry? Importation of cheap and pollutant vehicles is the sole contributor to the death of the auto manufacturing industries here in Africa. Our continent has basically become a dumping ground for cheap vehicles. People with vested interests will import these cars and make off profit off of them. And I don't blame them. But that attitude is killing off our industry, and it's time for us to do something about it. As Africans, we need to know that we are not second-class people to be treated or to be served with second-class goods. We deserve first-class goods, we deserve first-class vehicles. Well, there is the issue of greenhouse gases and its emission as well. Millions of pollutant vehicles, cheap though, are being dumped onto our continent. Irrespective of that, Africa produces a maximum of only 3% of the greenhouse gases and its emission in the entire world. This, however, is no excuse for us to import more of cheap but pollutant vehicles. We need to get to a point where we can locally manufacture our vehicles which will be environmentally friendly. African governments are responding to this threat to their auto industries and the collapse and demise of the industries, trying to resurrect and resuscitate our manufacturing companies, auto manufacturing companies. Here in Ghana, for instance, there is the Ghana Automotive Development Policy. The highlights of this policy, like I mentioned in my previous video, are tax exemptions and free import duties for assembling plants for manufacturing companies which will decide to set up in Ghana and in some other African countries which have already implemented this kind of auto policy. So you can have up to 10 years of tax exemption and free import duties on the parts that you bring into the country to assemble or to manufacture cars locally. At least every year, 1.5 million vehicles are imported into Africa. If we cost each of these vehicles at the barest minimum of $20,000, the product of $20,000 and 1.5 million vehicles is around $30 billion. And that is about the GDP of a small country in Africa. Here in Ghana, it is about 60% of our GDP. And we are losing all this money to other countries and other continents because we have killed off our auto industries with the importation of cheap vehicles. Should we be ungrateful to importers of vehicles? Should we crucify them and hold them solely accountable for the demise of our auto industries? The simple answer is no. These people are trying to make money. These people are trying to be entrepreneurs, and we respect that. So what happens to them now? Because they have a vested interest in the importation of cars. Well, once we have fully functional manufacturing companies in the country, once we have fully fledged manufacturing companies in Africa, these people could usually be enrolled to become sales representatives for these companies. Well, I know it's a very simple solution, but it is a solution nonetheless, and it is a starting point for the conversation to begin. The International Labour Organization ILO estimates that here in Africa, 1 out of 5 persons are not being trained, are not being educated, and is not employed. So we need every bit of job opportunity that we can get. How many jobs do you think we can create if we decide to re-establish our auto industries? Well, Toyota is the world's leader producer of cars. They produce about 10 million vehicles a year, and it takes them how many? 360,000 employees to be able to do that. Now, just by ratio and proportion, if Africa decides to manufacture all the 1.5 million vehicles, at least 1.5 million vehicles which we import yearly, if we manufacture all those here on the continent, a simple ratio and proportion will tell us that it will employ close to 54,000 people directly, not to talk of the indirect employment that it will create in terms of sales, in terms of servicing, in terms of maintenance, in terms of spare parts. That is different. Africa should not be the place where used and pollutant cars should come to die. Africa should be the place where first-class citizens like ourselves will treat ourselves to first-class vehicles and first-class cars. This has been ABC. See you in the next one. Tell me in the comment section whether you think that Africa is capable of doing this. Here on this channel, we promote Africa and its businesses. There is no better place to be on YouTube. Subscribe.